Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful July the 9th, 2019. Rondo Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Definitely thinking about going out and it seems like the mecca of sports is across the pond now, Charlton. We've had everything going on over there. We've got the World Cup going on. We got Wimbledon going on. Also next week, the British Open starts at golf. So why hang out here in the U.S. any longer?
Why hang out here in the United States at all, Big C? There's so much going on in the sports universe. I want to just say congratulations to all of our women that like to kick balls for a living, Big C, the soccer, or sometimes like they hit the soccer, they have to hit tennis balls. They need to do everything. Wait, we got baseball just happened, College World Series, that was UCLA. And then we had the men was Vanderbilt. So now you have women doing their thing, but they have to go outside the country to have success. Congratulations, United States World Cup champions over in England. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. So Big C, I know. Again, congratulations to the women's U.S. soccer team, World Cup champions. A 2-0 win over the Netherlands, and there's so much talk about Megan Rapone and pay equality. Even Snoop Dogg stepped in and said, pay women the money, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm just conservative. If you look at how they represented the U.S. on the wonderful stage, the world stage, they dominated. Back-to-back World Cup champions in women's soccer, Charlton. This feat has never even been accomplished once by the men's team here in the modern era.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to give these women the recognition for the accomplishments that they have made. I mean, we've seen the World Cup. You talked about the Ladies World Series with UCLA winning it. Look at how women have dominated on the tennis circuit representing the United States. Serena Williams. We've had Coco, who rose to stardom over Wimbledon as a 15-year-old, Charlton.
Yeah.
We've had so much success by the women in this country on the sports fields, Charlton. We need to start to compensate them more. You can't discount them being less of an athlete, Charlton, because they're bringing the fans to the stands.
Yeah, they definitely are, Big C. And just the thing that we talk about with gender pay, a lot of African Americans have led the charge, always asking for equal opportunity. Been doing that since the days of the Civil Rights Movement. Now you have women doing the same thing, and I hope it grabs some nice substance, because the U.S. women's soccer team, they agreed to mediation over gender discrimination. Now, for each World Cup championship, the women get $90,000. The men get $500,000. That's a big disparity there. So mediation doesn't mean an agreement, but give me your thoughts. Or do they have hope of having reached the same type of $500,000 plateau that men have reached? Big C, your thoughts?
Now, that's money that comes from FIFA. You know, they pay the $500 to the men, they pay the $90 to the women. The women have challenged the U.S. Soccer Federation, not challenging FIFA, Charlton. So this is about a U.S. lawsuit and mediation occurring. The U.S. Soccer Association needs to represent these women in a better way financially. They need to understand what they bring to the game. In America, Charlton. Think about how many young women and even young boys go out and play soccer because of the success of the women's national team, Charlton. And they stay on the grandest of stages. I mean, they're going to do a tour around the U.S. They arrived back last night. They're going to have a ticket tape parade in New York, Charlton. Then they're going to fly out to Los Angeles to be in a part of ESPY. But they're going to be on a whirlwind tour here in the United States, Charlton, letting the country see them and the World Cup. Think about the value of marketing that is for soccer, Charlton, keeping the youth enthusiastic about being a part of that. We saw an NBA championship that was won up in Toronto, Charlton. Have we seen anybody here in the United States about the NBA championship? For the first time in the history of the NBA, there has not been a parade in America to celebrate the NBA championship. So you think about it. Yes, that championship went to Canada. All the dogs of the NBA title went to Canada also. So you have 50 states down here that are not interested in the NBA championship right now because it went across the border. But the U.S. women's soccer team is being celebrated greatly by this entire nation.
Yeah.
That has to have some financial value. Just like we talked about collegiate athletes getting paid, getting represented and paid for their likeness, Charlton, their jersey sales, and all of those things. That they need to be able to earn income off that. When you think about the fight back from mainstream society in every echelon, Charlton,
Yeah.
it's always about minorities not getting paid. Those women are minorities.
Okay, it's like echoing back and forth. I'm going to see if I can put the platform on the outside of the car. Or do me a favor, roll your window all the way down so your voice, if I hit mute, you may not be able to hear yourself, though. Hold on a second. Yeah, the speakers are jumping all over the place. I'm going to hit mute right now. Go ahead and just talk to 10. Say it one more time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, I'll mute it out, and then we'll just keep going and see how it sounds. We'll get into the Clippers next. Okay, here we go. Okay, I think we have some microphone issues. That's what happens when you're 3,000 miles away, but I think we have most of it figured out. So bear with us while we go through our Big C Sports Show on this beautiful 9th of July, 2019. Again, congratulations, United States women's soccer team. 2-0 victory over the Netherlands. And I know they have the mediation agreement that hopefully they'll start getting the same kind of money that the men get. But I do want to jump to the NBA. And when you jump to the NBA, Big C, there's so much that happened in free agency. Over $4 billion traded hands in free agency since we have the NBA Finals. Congratulations again to the Toronto Raptors. But the biggest splash, at first we thought it was Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving going to the Brooklyn Nets. But now you have Kawhi Leonard, you have Paul George. They're coming back home to the LA Clippers, even though they grew up Laker fans, Big C. And for the Lakers, they land Anthony Davis. We know that happened. But they get Boogie Cousins coming from Golden State. He's probably the most talented, underappreciated big man because he's only getting about $4 million in his contract so far. Give me your feeling. Who had the biggest splash? Was it Brooklyn? Was it the Clippers? Or was it the Lakers? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, I look at the West Coast. We talk about the move out in Brooklyn. Everyone, was enamored by Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's not going to play.
He's injured.
I look at the move that you have with Kyrie Irving, but you also lost D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah.
He went to the Golden State Warriors. So that was just an interchangeable part right there. Kyrie Irving has proven that he can't get a team over the top. He couldn't win until LeBron returned back to Cleveland.
Right.
He went to Boston. He did not ascend to any success over there. Matter of fact, in a full season, the team got worse with him. Whether they were a top seed the previous year,
Yep.
they were 4 seeds the following year, Charlton.
Yep.
So he has to help improve the franchise. I look at what's going on out in Los Angeles, La La Land, whatever you guys want to call it out there.
LA,
Okay, La La Land. Okay, there's going to be a whole lot of La La going on out there.
Yep, that's
And I'm not talking about Carmelo Anthony's ex-wife.
Right.
So everybody's looking at the Lakers. And the talk now is that LeBron James is going to play point guard. He's been a point guard his entire career, Charlton. That's nothing new. And now, how do you fix the interchangeable parts with the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yeah.
You got all these big men that are playing on the floor. Everybody in the Lakers starting lineup right now is at least 6'8".
Yep.
And so that's hard to have movement defensively.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the off guard? Is it going to be Denny Green? Is it going to be Pope? Who knows what they're going to do in that aspect? How will they have movement on defense? Yes, they can play zone, but can they get out and cover smaller players, Duncan? Can they run up and down the court? That's going to be the biggest challenge. Can Boogie Cousins, can Anthony Davis stay on track running up and down the court with some of the running teams in the Western Conference?
Yeah.
That's going to be a problem. I mean, look at Portland. They run.
Yeah.
This is a team that runs. Golden State will continue to run. They're not going to slow down and play a pat-down offense. Denver can move. The only big guy they got is Jokic. Everybody else is a runner. And then you go across to the other side of the Staples Center. Look at what's happened over there. You bring in Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Charlton. You brought in a guy that's been a 2-time MVP.
Yep.
You brought in a guy who's been the Defensive Player of the Year and an All-Star in George. This is a team that's set for success. You got Doc Rivers, Charlton, who knows how to bring in guys that have been stars in this league and make them play together.
Yeah.
Remember when he was with Boston? They brought in Kevin Garnett, who had spent his entire career as an all-star, Charlton, but he couldn't win.
Yeah.
And he taught him how to accept his team concept, and he will make him a champion. And he did that in Boston.
Yeah.
And I see that same thing happening with what Doc Rivers is going to do now. He's had success his entire career with the Clippers, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's moved off of some players, Charlton, and let them go because he felt it was time to change. Just like we said, see Bill Belichick does in the NFL. When it's time to move on, it's time to move on. That experiment with you is no longer work.
Right.
I see the more success on the Clippers side of the Staples Center than what I do on the Lakers side of the Staples Center. Instantly, Charlton, the Clippers are built to win right now.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer invested to win right now. The Lakers, they gave a lot of short contracts to these players. We're talking 1 and 2 year contracts.
That's it.
Ballmer has players on the 3 and 4 year contracts. So he wants to win now, but he has time to develop. The Lakers, they spent a lot of money last season on 1 year contracts. They had 5 players on the 1 year contract.
Yeah.
They're all gone. They had no success with them. Now they got to repeat that cycle. But the biggest repeat of that cycle, Charlton, not just with the players, they have a new coach. So they got to learn a whole new system.
Yep.
They got to learn all of each other. That's a hard curve in the NBA when you go into a system like that. Doc Rivers has based on the team he had last year that won 48 games.
Yes.
And he just added a few new trinkets to it.
And even with the Lakers, when you have short-term contracts and then Jason Kidd waiting in the wings, they're already telling you they're going to do a 1-2 year experiment, and then they're going to bring in Kidd and whoever else is there. LeBron will maybe have another year or 2 left, depending on what he decides to do. So with the Clippers, Steve Ballmer trying to win now with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. We know they won 48 games last year. Patrick Beverly, I mean, he's amazing. He's had some clutch games also for the Clippers. So the Clippers look good. The Lakers are still that cachet. This is L.A. Ironically, there was a restaurant down in Southern California, and they had LeBron James, and they had Anthony Davis on the billboard, and they said Kawhi Leonard was trying to go in and get some coffee, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and they said, no, this is LA Laker territory. So it's all fair and love and war. It's already starting in Los Angeles. But I just want to congratulate all the people who were able to sign a contract. And I know it's basketball, but Curt Flood, he's the one that helped create the free agency for players to go and play wherever they want to play. African-American man, did it in baseball, but all of the athletes benefit because of him and the moxie that he had to go out and pursue better things. I do want to just jump on something here as we're talking about NBA. Adam Silver, and I want to get your thoughts, Big C. I'm out here on the West Coast, you're down south, but maybe he should change the 2020 NBA All-Star Game to California versus the rest of the NBA. You think about it, because California starters will be Steph Curry, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. You look at the bench, Lou Williams, Draymond Green, DeMarcus Cousins, De'Aaron Fox, Patrick Beverly, D'Angelo Russell, and then Buddy Hield. So that right there, that's California dreaming, Big C. Your thoughts?
Charlton, I mean, you're talking about something that would create new interest in the NBA All-Star Game. That team you named is an All-Star Game.
They are.
By itself, even the bench could be an All-Star team. But you pick the California Stars, Charlton, versus the rest of the NBA. You're talking about not just one All-Star game, Charlton. They might want to make this a 2 out of 3 series.
2 out of 3.
That's what would be the greatest thing for the NBA, because when we look at how the NBA game, All-Star game is structured now, Charlton, it's more of a comical practice.
Yep.
Make it competitive. Make it mean something. We just see in baseball where it means home court advantage for the winning, league.
Yeah.
Now you do that in the NBA. You make this a 2 out of 3. Make it not just a weekend series, Charlton. Let it start on Thursday, Friday, and the championship is on a Sunday. 2 out of 3. This would be great for the league, Charlton. But you have California challenging the rest of the NBA. That is great throughout their entire league.
Yeah.
But when you talk about taking that structure of players that you just named and have them coming from California challenging the rest of the NBA, Just think about the NBA start doing that as a series where you start taking a regional team playing against the rest of the NBA, and that becomes a structure. And so I think that would be a great move when the NBA is looking for new marketing players and expansion around the world. You have the best product right here in your house. Just learn a new way of marketing. So Adam, if you're listening, or anybody on those other stations that we see on television and where the guys are wearing all the makeup, think about that. Send that message out on your airwaves that the NBA needs to look at restructuring its All-Star game. California versus the rest of the NBA.
Yeah, we already saw it when it was Canada. Oh, Canada versus the rest of the NBA. We saw what happened when one whole nation's behind the team. Imagine one state behind an All-Star team. But speaking of California, Russell Westbrook, he went to UCLA, being here in Southern California. And he's most likely to be on the move before the end of the summer league. Oklahoma City, maybe. You know, this is a guy that's been with Harden. He's been with Durant. He's also been now with Paul as far as all-star players. Of course, there's some other players that he's played with too, but not at that level. And they've all moved on, but he's still there. At what point will he say, maybe OKC is not the place I need to be to win? And I want to just get your feeling on where he could land. Just his fashion sense alone, Big C, either puts him in the Big Apple or maybe in Miami because there's no more room in LA for him. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's time for Paul George to go. I mean, not Paul George, but
Russell Westbrook
to move on. When you think about everybody who has left OKC, they moved on to greener pastures to larger cities. You know, you can't attract superstars realistically to OKC. I mean, it was a shock to everybody that Paul George ended up there. But everybody has had to get out of there in a hurry. And they've all been all-stars leaving that place, though. You talked about his fashion sense. And both of those places that you talked about, New York, Madison Square Garden needs a star. I mean, when you look at the young nucleus that the Knicks have put together, I think that Russell Westbrook would be the prime suspect to go in and help those guys mature. If they can develop his work ethic, Charlton, playing for the New York Knicks, think about how great their franchise would be instantly. Within 2 years, Charlton, they would be challenging for Eastern supremacy because he would force those young players not to sit out there and worry about the paycheck they're getting, but to try to keep up with him. Now, when you toss South Beach into it, how would he and Jimmy Butler match? They just did a deal for Jimmy Butler. Butler wants to have his own team. I know Pat Riley wants one more kick at the bucket. He's 74 years old now. And you know, he's like Jerry West. Can I win one more winner? You know, he's won in Los Angeles. He's won in Miami. But as an executive, he's learned from Jerry West. You have to put together a couple superstars. And I think if he can put together an all-star backcourt in Miami, look at what they have up in Portland with Lillard up there and McCullough. And you do that in Miami with Westbrook and Butler, you have an all-star caliber backcourt, Charlton. You can put a couple of pieces together. I know everybody's talking about you got to have 3 big superstars. No, you don't. You just need 2. You need 3 integral pieces that will work with them, Charlton.
No matter what happens, there's so much talk about who's going where and how it's going to help them win. But eventually you got to go where people who want. I think what the Clippers have done because they have stability at the helm in Doc Rivers. I still don't think that Golden State is going to fall out of the playoffs because they've done some good things too. And the fact that they kept Klay Thompson, even if they have a setback, they'll be a playoff team. But even if they have a setback, when they have the Splash Brothers, they're going to be right in it too. And speaking of Splash Brothers, today is an abbreviated show because we're all on vacation here. And I want to also bring up the fact that the Home Run Derby with Major League Baseball, their crown jewel, the Home Run Derby last night at Big C, it was epic. 2 rookies competing, setting a Home Run Derby record. There's Pete Alonso of the Mets. He wins the Home Run Derby, defeating Vladimir Guerrero Jr. of the Blue Jays with 23 home runs in the final round. I know that baseball loves pitching, but I think the Home Run Derby, the reason it's there is because a lot of people, they get into it. And this Derby last night, to see a record 23 home runs is a lot, even when they kind of photograph the pitchers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it was epic when you think about it. Vlad Guerrero competing in the Home Run Derby. 12 years ago, Charlton, he was with his dad in San Francisco at that stadium when his dad won the Home Run Derby. Now, the format has changed since that time, but Vlad Guerrero hit a record 91 home runs last night.
Wow.
91. When it got to the final round, he had sort of run out of gas because in the semifinal round, he had to hit 40 home runs to advance in the semifinal round.
Yeah.
He hit 29 in the first round. And when you think about what this young man put on as an exhibition last night, y'all, this lets you know the state of baseball has changed. We talk about the record number of young players that make up the all-star roster. That means that baseball has been rejuvenated, that more youth are getting involved in the game. We don't have to sit up and worry about the old heads that we've gotten a chance to know over the years. They've been pushed aside by the enthusiasm. But when you saw this home run derby last night, everybody's talking about the ball is juice. The ball is actually juice, trouble. When you think about it, Major League Baseball 5 years ago bought up Rollins, okay? Rollins is the baseball of the NFL, of the Major League Baseball. So if you're producing your own product, you know what the end product is going to be. When we say we want the ball to go further, we can go in and do it because you have control of the product. So if people are wondering why the baseball is traveling more now, Major League Baseball owns Rollins. They're producing their own product.
That's right.
You know, it's like if you want spicy food, you go to Tabasco and say, hey, make it hotter. And that's what baseball has done to the baseball. But, you know, that home run derby last night, Charlie, I don't know if the All-Star game could even live up to that. But when you think about the roars that were given out last night, Charlie, in that launching pad there in Cleveland, I mean, it was spectacular. You know, the baseball is traveling. At this point, Charlton, last year, at the All-Star break, well, not the All-Star break, but the entire season, there were 94 baseballs that were hit over 450 feet during the season. Now we're at the All-Star break, Charlton. They've had 100 baseballs already for the season that has gone over 450 feet. So if people want to say that the dynamics of the game has changed, no, the baseball has changed. But it's changed for the fans, Charlton. We saw it in the NBA when you changed the rules. We've seen it in the NFL where they changed the rules to get more scoring. We've seen it in baseball where they've altered the ball to have it leave the mark.
Well, I'm telling you, there's a lot going on. A lot of money handed out, too, when you look at Alfonso. And everybody was $1 million given out last night for and then you have Alfonso. He's got $550,000. Baseball's headed in the right direction for the home run derby. It's amazing because people want to see that. So as long as you have balls going out of the fence, I think when AT&T Park, now it's Oracle Ballpark in San Francisco, was built back in 2000, there was complaint that the right field was too short, and that Barry Bonds was being a left-hander, southpaw, that the ball was built for him. The ballpark was built for him to hit more home runs, and maybe that's true. But I think baseball has to realize having a home run fence that's shorter makes the game sexier because people really don't want to see a 3-2 ball game or a 4-3 ball game. They want to see 9-7. They want to see a 10-8 ball game, and having the ballpark shorter. The ballparks are shorter. That helps. We saw that in Europe when the Yankees and the Red Sox were over there too. But give me your feeling on giving out such large awards for home run derbies, Big C. Your thoughts?
We're talking about, I think it's great for baseball. You know, they've had a hard time attracting some of the superstars of the game into the All-Star home run contest. But I think about Alonso last night, Charlton, winning a grand prize of $1 million. His salary is only $550,000 for the season. So he doubled his salary last night, Charlton, by winning this epic home run derby. That's a great feat. I think that Major League Baseball should do the right thing also in giving the same amount of money to Vlad Guerrero Jr., Charlton, because of the 90-run home run record that he set last night. You know, because the format has changed, Charlton, and he had to go through extra pitches to get into the final, you know, it wore him out. So he didn't have much left. But I think as far as what they rewarded the fans with, and $1 million as far as baseball money is nothing, Charlton. Nothing. You know, so Major League Baseball needs to tally up and say, hey, because of the record that you set, we're going to equal that bonus to you also. And we're thinking about this. We these are two rookie players, Charles, and this is the first time in Major League history that rookies have competed in the home run derby for the home run title.
Yes.
So I think that Major League Baseball needs to reward both of these young men because they're not making the salaries of a Bryce Harper, or Manny Machado, or Mike Trout, and many other great superstars in the game of baseball.
Yep.
Reward these young men for putting on a great show for the fans of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's congratulations, and I hope we'll have a great All-Star game. It's everybody's. They say it's still America's pastime. I really think America's pastime has really been basketball. I just see that. Summer leagues. We have the World Cup with the women winning. Congratulations to the USA. We have all the great talk of what the America's great pastime is. We know it's football is there, but basketball is really taking off. I just want to make one caveat here. Zion Williamson had his start in not Los Angeles, but in Las Vegas. And then I guess he played about 10 minutes, 11 minutes, and had a little knee strain. Much ado about nothing. But do you like the fact that we have Summer League when they've already scouted this player and every other player when they were in college? I know Summer League is great because it creates jobs. But you get another Kevin Durant, you get another Klay Thompson, or another Boogie Cousins, or not to the same extent, Zion Williamson, and will players start saying, I don't want to play in this stuff, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Chelsea, Summer League is a developmental league. It's not just the players that were drafted, because there's not enough players that were drafted to put together a team. There's only 60 players that are drafted.
Yeah.
So you're looking at players that have been on the roster from the previous season that didn't get a lot of development time during the season. You're looking at free agents hoping to get a chance. All the G League players talking, they come into the Summer League in Las Vegas hoping to be spotted. If not by the team that they're playing for, they'll be able to move when all the cuts come down to another organization.
Right.
When you look at the NBA last year, Charles, 40% of the players in the NBA, 40% were non-drafted players.
Yeah.
So this is how they develop in the Summer League. And so this is how guys become superstars. You think about Draymond Green, and we've seen in 4 consecutive championships, he was a second-round draft pick. He had to spend his time in the Summer League to develop his skills to make the roster with the Warriors.
Yes.
The Warriors last year on their roster had 5 players that were second-round draft picks. On their roster, they made another run for an NBA title. So these players look for this opportunity to get into the Summer League and go out and hopefully be spotted and even outshine some of the number 1 draft picks. If you look at R.J. Barrett, number 3 pick overall of the New York Knicks, this guy went from 5 for 18 in one game and 3 for 13 in the next. And everybody's touting him as the next great superstar. So you think he doesn't need some developmental time? If he's only playing at this level in the Summer League, wait till we get up against the grown men playing during the regular season.
No, that makes a big difference too. So the Summer League is still up in the air. I know a lot of professional players, NFL players don't want to play in the Pro Bowl, and NBA players want to play in the All-Star game because there's really no contact. Nobody's going to get injured. But the Summer League, when Zion was sitting there with ice on his knees, when people kind of thought, wow, is this worth it? But I know everyone has to make their own choice. I want to close out today's abbreviated show just by saying you can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker. You can follow us on YouTube. If you have Xfinity Comcast, you can follow Big C Sports on TV. But what I really like is the app called Alexa. When you go home tonight, say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll hear from our sponsors. You'll hear Welcome to the Show. I'll introduce Big C and he'll do his thing. So I do want to apologize for some of the echo having here in Southern California with all the things that have been happening with the earthquakes. Maybe it's affecting some of the communication as well. So I apologize for any echo that you hear on our podcast today. I want to just close out in the final 5 minutes talking about what I think America's pastime is. I know it's basketball. Some people say it's baseball. I still think it's football. And you brought up earlier, Big C, California versus the world when it comes to NBA. Maybe Adam Silver should consider that. But I want to get your thoughts on what are the top states that produce high school to college athletes in football, whether it's California. I'm going to say it's California. One of the top programs out here that sends players on to the NFL is Long Beach Poly down here in Southern California where I am right now. And then when you look at Texas, we know they have a lot of people down south and in the mid-southwest that produce a lot of great athletes. Down there where you are in Georgia, Florida, in the Southeastern Conference area, they have a lot of players too. But give me your feeling. I know you're already going to say the Southern boys, Big C, but I'll still go West Coast, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at how the landscape of college football recruiting has changed, in the last 15, 20 years of college football, the Southeast has been the dominant part of the country, Charlton. When you look at national championships, you look at great players that have come on the national stage and been drafted in the NFL, they come from the South. I mean, when you look at the playoff system, you know, of the 4 teams that have made it in the short time of the college football playoff, those teams have been dominated from the South. And when you start looking at rosters, Charlton, they're coming from the South. Georgia right now is leading the nation for its production of great players. Everybody is going into that state, dragging players out. Yes, it used to be California years ago, but football has become part of life in the South. You know, in the West Coast is more of a pastime, but it's a lifeblood in the South. I mean, they're thinking about baseball, they're thinking about basketball, but football is what every young man aspires to be when they're growing up. And when you look at how the SEC has dominated the landscape of college football over the last decade, and now the ACC is moving into that also. Even prior to that, think about how great Miami was over the years in Miami, when they had several different coaches win national titles down there. The landscape of college football has changed to Georgia and Florida as the top recruiting hotbeds in the country.
Well, I will say, in reference to the California programs, there's a high school level, and there's a college level, then a professional level. I think what's going on in Southern California, even Northern California, there are programs that have dominant athletes that leave the state to go south. But if you look at the last 7 high school national championship programs, Mater Dei of Southern California has won the last 2 years in a row at the high school level. Also, St. John Bosco of Bellflower, which is in the same league with Mater Dei, the Trinity League, they've won a national championship. You even look at Bishop Gorman of Las Vegas, they've won a national championship. So the last 7 years, 4 of the national champions have come out of the West Coast on the high school level. The problem is those teams are leaving. It was even Mater Dei that snapped Florida State champion IMG Academy's winning streak at 40 games. They'd beaten everybody on the East Coast. But when they came to California, they lost. I think that's a note to West Coast coaches. You have the talent here. The high school level proves it. I think there's a school out of Southern California that also beat one of the state champions in Texas, 44-14. So it's not about who's going to have the best college program. It's about who keeps the best high school talent. De La Salle of Concord, perennial national power. They play Florida State champion St. Thomas Aquinas to open the season up here in Northern California also. So we'll see what happens. But if you can keep your players at home, whether it's USC, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, that makes a big difference. So today is an abbreviated show of Big C Sports coming to you this week. I just want to say thank you for helping us with the podcast, for all the people helping us with the broadcast down here in Southern California and connecting to Big C down in the East. Just having some issues with our system, but hopefully you can still follow what we're saying. I want to say Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford to go over to the British Open live. So I'm going to have to go out and play on one of them dried up golf courses and see if we can emulate Tiger Woods not winning it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Tiger Woods is fine. He'll fight. He's a California boy, too. A lot of good athletes in California, all over the country. We just hope that everybody has success in doing what makes you happy. And when you do that, chances are you're going to enjoy your life. I want to say every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman gone through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to put up with that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.